Hello and welcome to From the Depths. My name is Sun Karma and we're in Vehicle Designer. I wanted to do a little bit of a test. One side, I wanted to actually kill two birds with one stone technically, though I'll have to do this several times over. But what this is basically we're going to do some weapon testing. Firstly, I wanted to check different types of armor so that I decide what I can use in future for best effectiveness, and also what kind of advanced cannon weapon I should use against certain types of armor. Sort of 2% understood, but I'll have to do this test multiple times because I will need to do this test for cram cannons, missiles, lasers, particle cannons, all those kind of things. So, let me explain a bit of the armor types that I'm considering to use, and you might also want to consider these as well, or think about how you can try and counter these. Now, firstly we have here, as well, first let me explain this. We have a small little dummy target here. It's a small engine, a fuel injector, a fuel storage tank, a small cannon, mainframe, and 4 surge protectors, which is something that should be on every ship. After all, if we come here, we can see surge protectors are quite expensive, but they're very much worth it. Now, a wood beam is only 4 material. So this is something that's quite cheap, even though I have 3 layers of wooden beams here to serve as protection here. But it's spaced armor thing. Now, our second piece here is, of course, alloy beams. Now, for those you don't know, they are sort of on a development build right now, which means we now actually get to see the cost of things as just material cost, which is kind of nice, because this is also a sign of why I'm doing this test, is because I don't have to worry about the metal versus wood and scrap cost. I just have to worry about the material cost. So it's much more viable to use something like alloy beams and metal in something you know. So alloy beam is material cost 16, and you can see I've got 1 layer here. This is typically the type of armor I'm going to be using for airships and stuff. If I'm going to build a ship, it's going to be using metal, such as like this double thick metal beam. It's quite excessive, but yeah, it's definitely something I would like to keep handy, because I want protection, lots and lots of protection. Oh, excuse me. And if we go on here, we have another thing here that's just metal, but with explosive reactive armor on. Something I would like to try and make use of more in future. And then now here, not finally, second final, is of course heavy armor beams. That's the latest and biggest, the ridiculously expensive beams that are very heavy and tons of health and loads of armor. Basically just 1 layer, because I wouldn't be able to afford any double layer or triple layer kind of setup for that. And of course, lastly here, we just have a little bit of wood and a shield generator. Shield generator is on reflect, effect strength 5, which is your average level thing. I do know that in later stages you will find a lot of shield projectors that are like on max strength and at angled pieces, but for this test I'm just going to be running this. Maybe because it's not consuming a lot of energy. I've been doing this construction for a bit of a while, and you can see I've only used 50 fuel to power the shield. Very nice. Very nice indeed. On what is relatively, if I combine all these little engines into one big engine, there's a relatively small amount of fuel used. So, what we have here, you might notice on the side we've got basically a gauge, 260 gauge weapon. That is going to have a a 3,900 millimeter long shell, 4 meters shell rack, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 shells. So let's get to customizing. What is the type of shell that I want to test first? Now, I'm going to look at the shell nose straight ahead to try and figure that out. So we got some couple of things here. Now a hollow point I'm not going to really test because frankly it's going to just do damage to one block, and I'm not really interested in damage to one block. I want to be able to damage things behind it. If I typically make a very small rapid fire AA gun, maybe, but for this purpose, yeah, fuck it, let's go test the hollow point to head out on all of these things. Now, what kind of body ratio do you want? I think we're going to go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 casings, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So here we need to start. What kind of things work good? Well, that's basically going to be solids. So, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 gunpowder casings, and we're going to keep that basically the same on each of these ammo types. There's 10 gunpowder casings, and then solid warhead bodies. We're going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 solid bodies or whatever things, and then we're going to have a hollow point head on the end. So now you might be wondering, why do I have 2 cannons? Well, basically because having to rotate the one cannon all the way to shoot at one of those sides ones makes it a bit difficult because you can't see it hit the stuff behind, because some module types destroy things behind. Assign all unassigned intakes up to the same. Assign all assigned intakes to this ammo source. Now, is this thing loaded? Yeah, one clips, loaded shell, cooldown, recall force, loaded shell, inaccuracy. Right. Let's test this out. So, first test is multiple layers of wood. I know how this is immediately going to end. Oh my. That was unexpected. Well, it certainly hasn't destroyed the wood block, but it's damaged all of them, which is interesting. Now, that was quite loud. Let me quickly just go to options menu, sound. Oh boy. So, my ears are now gone, and we've seen now that's not really stopped anything there. That's basically gone. Only hit one thing. If we hit that, again, not getting through any of that. Which is a bit of a pity. I would have hoped that it would be able to destroy some of that. Huh, weird. No damage to that, no damage to anything behind it, so effectively this is not really that effective. Oh now this seems interesting. Now definitely the double thick armor has certainly been a different result. See, these for some reason does damage spread out to different blocks. But there's just this one block that's got damaged. I want to quickly see a bit something here. What's the armor piercing of this? 8.2. So I wonder if armor piercing was changed, that if it has more armor piercing than the block, then it will spread the damage out to neighboring blocks, because an alloy beam only has 5 armor. Could be possible that, and of course a metal beam has 10 armor, which makes it possible for it to spread the damage out to those other blocks. Now we're going to come here to this cannon to start doing the next one. So we're going to do put some armor. And whoopsie, fell into the water. Oh my god, and I can't get up. Miss control, chair, sit on a chair, get out of the chair. So that basically instantly all the armor pieces blew off. And not much damage done to the pieces behind. I didn't even get through the armor. Certainly if I had a much more higher caliber, that would be able to get through in one hit. Now, let's move on to heavy armor. The newest and latest edition. And barely even a blaze scratch. Nice to know. Now, let's come to our shielded piece here. Which is actually nice to know that heavy armor is really heavy. But if you look at the cost, if we go look at a metal beam. The cost of a metal beam is 20 material. And the cost of a heavy beam is, you see there, 160. So, 2 metal beams would be quite equal to 80, and 2 metal beams is quite easily blocked a shot, whereas 1 heavy armor beam is clearly not even damaged by 1 shot, but it would be much more cheaper to defend against. Well, this is against that. The one type of shell of this is hollow point heads. Start to question what kind of damage will we get against others. And if we shoot that, that's gone right through the shield. Which is unfortunate. Now, so effectively this is not really an effective shell type. So what can we try next? Well, composite head, high velocity APHE, or thin to medium armor that is likely to fragment. Alright, composite head. Let's clear the ammunition barrels and do some setup. I will make a small cut here. Back again. Let us start with some other experiments. Now we have the composite head with solid base. I'm not going to go too much in the other modules of I basically want to look at damage and protection against damage. So let's go here. Yeah, that explains everything by itself. Let's go on straight through. Suffice to say, the hollow point is not. I don't see much point in the hollow point head. And it seems I was a bit wrong about what I said before. It's clearly the hollow point head spreads out damage to other blocks when it hits, while composite head has penetration value, so it will go through things. Now, think about composite head. Because if the armor value is too high, then it will fail to penetrate. But it has a higher armor piercing value than, say, APHE capped head. So the trade-off is that risk. You get that risk of failure, but you have better penetration. So if it's really high armor, you use APHE heads, but if it's composite head, low armor, use composite. And if I shoot here, that's gone straight through, even hitting the valuable parts at the back. So now, question is double thick steel. What happens when I try and hit that? Well, it's taken out 1 block. Nothing more than that, sadly. Bit of a problem, I'd say. Well, not much of a problem if I use that as protection. So he doesn't get through much of that armor. We still have like a bit of armor that's still well protected. Now, And the question is, how well does reactive armor fare against this kind of ammunition type? Right then. Alright, let's see. Doesn't give jack shit against it. Shell goes straight through, doesn't well, explosive reactive armor is only really protected against certain types of armor penetration rounds, you know, like heat rounds, yes. But so far we can see that's not really going. It's not going to defend against composites. So against heavy armor, again, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, I reckon this is going to go straight through the shield. It's gonna go straight through the shield. It's gonna. Let's see. Let's line up the shots. The shield is ruining, not lining up. Oh no, it didn't. Oh, so did the squash head just have a higher chance of going? I mean, does the hollow point have better chance of going through shields? No, yeah, it's just chance. Simple chance, and that's gone right through. Bit of a pity, I would say. Now, question. Let's move on to AP capped head. Composite head replaced now with AP capped head. Now, if we look here down at the stats, the composite head has an expert armor piercing 17. Unexpected kinetic of 17,000. AP capped head has higher expected kinetic damage, but a lot less expected armor piercing value, which reduces the amount of damage it can do if the armor value exceeds how much it has. So, excuse me for a little moment while I re-prepare. And welcome back. Let's try now simple armor piercing. Armor piercing with a solid core, no explosive, armor piercing explosive. We're trying to try more simpler types of weapons. Maybe we'll try some more complicated things. I don't know. Oh well. So now armor piercing versus 3 layers of spaced wood. Absolutely no hope of protecting that in any time of the year. So effectively, if while enemy is using maybe just using simple hollow point units, then yes, wood's going to be very good, very protective, but against any sort of decent weapon, in this case a 260mm gauge gun, it's going to fail. So deep water guard, facing deep water guard, yeah, just get a nice advanced cannon. This is not too expensive, this thing, you know. Advanced alloy didn't stand a chance, really. It's just a bit problematic. Alright, so now the question is, how well does a armor piercing round go against a double thick steel? This is what I'm quite curious about. Oh. Right. Now, let me just redo that test because, in case someone did not see that properly. As you can see, it cuts through metal beams efficiently, but can't get through double thick steel. Now, of course, maybe a 50 centimeter cannon would easily rip through this, but the test is something a bit more average. Is more average being just a 260mm gauge gun. Possibly if I was now going against, I'm going to do a later test when I do use cram cannons, we'll be able to see something more interesting, a lot of more violent kind of wavering types and stuff, you know. Right, so now let's test armor piercing ballistics against simple explosive reactive armor. And explosive reactive armor predictably does not do anything. But this is the reason why we're testing this. I want to see what happens. So now, question is, heavy armor. Does this do anything against heavy armor? Most likely, nothing. I can predict this is not happening. You really need a big caliber gun to actually get through heavy armor. It seems a little bit more damaged than usual, I would say. Normally, it would be a bit more lighter, but it seems the armor-piercing round has done a little bit more damage than usual to that head. Now, shield, I don't know if really pointed shields because it's really RNG. That's gone straight through without a care in the world. Right, so what can we do next? I believe if we're going through the list of going up, next is shaped charge head. No AP, but usually uses all immediately connected explosive charges to blast a stream of superheated armor-piercing copper into the target. So we need to actually add explosives to this. So shell middle, we're going to replace all the solid warheads with HE. Now we've got a shaped charge head. Quite interesting. Now you'll have to excuse me while I get things set up. High explosive heat ammunition is going to function. Shaped charge ammunition is going to function a lot different from AP and all those things. So this is going to be very interesting to see what happens. If I fire that, see now, through 3 layers of wood is now actually working very, very, very effective against the shaped charge ammunition. We barely even got through the second one. It's a bit of small damage, but a small bit of damage bled through to the 3rd layer, but our actual equipment is relatively okay. Though something seems to be a bit grayed out, so it might have actually carried some of the damage through. Bit problematic, but nevertheless we know now how that works. So against lighter alloy, let's see what happens. Now again, the thing about shaped charge ammunition, it doesn't really care about the first thing it hits. It sort of carries through to the next block, and we could have seen what happened there is that our blocks here behind got completely broken like crazy. Which is the reason for it. It's supposed to ignore the armor that we have. So, against 2 thick metal streams. And we can see there, it just doesn't care about the metal beams, you know? It goes straight through. Completely destroyed our crucial equipment. Quite the worry indeed. This is probably the type of weapon I would like to use against the Onyx Watch, and maybe later factions as well. So now the question is, my armor. I'm getting quite worried here because this is so far been breaking through a lot, except for the 3 layers of wood. Let's hope as a reactive armor can stop the shell. Oh, I did it again, didn't I? Oh boy. Fuck's sake, fuck's sake, fuck's sake, fuck's sake, fuck's sake. Please stop derping. If we look here. Again, no. This time we didn't have much damage on those things, because and most of our beings are intact. Due to the fact that explosive reactive armor sort of pushes away the effect of this type of shell before it can even hit anything. Now, can this shell actually defeat heavy armor? We'll have to see now. Get it lined up nicely. Yep. that's completely broken through it. It's gone straight through and actually destroyed things behind it. Very, very problematic. So definitely, if I start seeing enemies that use heavy armor, I have to start using high explosive. I keep saying high explosive anti-tank because that's what the original shape charge was quite very much used for, to defeat tanks. But yeah, shape charge is a very fascinating thing. What can easily be defeated by, say, reactive armor. So my case would have to be, if I want the maximum amount of protection I want, is not heavy armor because that's way too expensive. I'd have to go 2 levels of steel and explosive reactive armor onto that. Now, how does explosive reactive armor? How does shape charges fare against a shield generator? Yes, it went straight through. They recently did some changes again on shields. I know that, and that's kind of what I want to do. These sort of tests. And then it bounced that time. It's really down to chance with the shields at the moment. You'd really want to have multiple shields going on. As I always say, this is on a reflect setting, not really angled or anything, which is part of the reason why I wanted to have this test. Now, okay, so conclusive. I kind of like this the way the shape charge weapons look. Might not be very useful against the deep water guard because they've got a lot of layers, a lot of flimsy things. So maybe a bit more AP round. But other factions definitely shape charged weapons are advised here. Now, let's go into the list. What's next on the list? SABOT head. SABOT head. Ah, yes, the very important SABOT head. Now we're going to quickly look here, quickly slap on the AP capped head again, just to see. Expected muzzle velocity is 510, but if I actually put a SABOT head, our expected velocity goes a lot higher. That's because that's what the point of SABOT head is. SABOT body. Let's go. Put just a whole load of SABOT head warhead bodies. Now, usually you would have something different than just SABOT heads, but we now have ridiculous amounts of armor piercing. Still not 40, because that's what the heavy armor is, but this is a small caliber, maybe a larger caliber SABOT head warhead would be capable of going through that. I have a expected muzzle velocity of 796. That's quite nice. That's very useful if I say want to make an anti-air weapon, dedicated anti-air weapon, to lash out and strike down air targets. Definitely, because that's what I've always used the SABOT for, is anti-air machine guns. While mainly cannons would be used for destroying things. Now, do excuse me, I need to do some cleanup. Welcome back. Now let's start trying to test our SABOT things. Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing in basically those little breaks, I'm basically going and replacing any sort of lightly damaged things here in the back. Not really cared too much about the blocks here because they're very flimsy anyway, so they'll be broken anyways. But mainly replacing all the beams with max health versions. Make sure that I get the full test, and also clearing the barrels of any of the previous ammunition type, so we can effectively see what we're supposed to see. Now, SABOT warhead against wooden beams. Yep, right through, clean like butter. Which is the reason why I've always been using SABOT warheads as anti-aircraft, because they have that high velocity, but they also have that high penetration ability, so they can basically cut through things very easily. So generally gives very good results. And straight through the alloy armor, which is what we want to see. We want this to be devastating. Again, this is why I use it for anti-air, because A lot of aircraft use alloy beams. Though not airships, though. Aircraft, yes. Airships, no. Airships usually have the ability to carry metal on them. Oh, yes. Nope. Goes straight through. Goes straight through the double thick steel. Results speak for themselves. No. SABOT warhead is very, very powerful. Now, we're probably going to see the same result with the explosive reactive armor, because, as we noted, explosive reactive armor is only really used to stop our old friend shaped charges. Well, let's see what happens here. Straight through, cut through there, gutted our critical parts at the back. Very problematic. Now, the question is, can the SABOT head pierce through heavy armor? That's quite the question. Now, no, it cannot. It has failed to penetrate it at all. So, against the SABOT warhead, I've got a bit of a problem so far, is that definitely double thick armor has no more. And for all the other cases, I would consider taking double thick armor and explosive reactive armor on top of that, because that would work. But against SABOT rounds, that wouldn't really work because it doesn't get through. It can cut through that quite easily, but heavy armor, not really. Problematic. And shield. It actually does bounce off the shield. That's strange. That's a bit strange. Am I just seeing something here? Yes, it's going straight off the shield. How curious. I'm flabbergasted. I do remember something that's saying the faster a shell goes, the higher chance it has to bounce. And not to mention, it's also the angle that it hits. The speed and the angle that it hits the actual shield is going to determine how that, not the actual armor piercing. So in this case, we see, yes, indeed, this is going to... Shields might be a bit more of a viable choice against the SABOT heads, so if we ever encounter them. Yeah, that's definitely bouncing quite a lot. Very nice to see. Very nice to know that we can use shields in that way. Now, alright, so SABOT round, very, very useful. I would very much like to employ this as an anti-aircraft weapon. But anti-ship, not really, because airships will definitely have lots of more armor. Although, yes, I probably can use this. You could probably use it as well. After all, this is an experimentation. You should be able to not only think for yourself about what you want here. So, okay, Skimmer tip. Now, I'm not really going to be testing this one because it's literally just designed for bouncing off water. Though, you know, might as well. Might as well, because some people might think, oh, let me try this thing. Now, I'm going to try this out with solid warhead bodies and Skimmer tip. Fell off. I'll be back in a moment once I've cleaned up some stuff here. Hello, welcome back. We're gonna go through just quickly glancing over to the recording, making sure things are still running. I hate to do this all over again, you know, but seems things are running. So welcome back. We're going to be testing out a Skimmer warhead. Now that's sort of the reason why a Skimmer warhead is there. So you shoot it in water and it sort of bounces back up, which would be useful if you were trying to build a sort of low level kind of ship. It's like just on the water surface, poking out, or just on the water surface, and a low level cannon. So you have that extra range because the shell goes bouncing along the water surface and hits the target. But what kind of damage does the Skimmer warhead actually do? We're gonna have to check that out. It cleaves straight through wood, which is a good thing to see. Yes. But wood is one thing, but metal's another question. Can it get through metal? We'll have to see. Goes straight through the alloy. Real question. Double thick steel. Can it go through double thick steel? No, it does not go through double thick steel. Double thick steel does very much everything it can to block that kind of damage, which is tragic, I would say. Right, so, next question. So it's reactive armor. Goes straight through. My worries with this kind of ammunition, not too much. It seems to behave quite a bit like the armor-piercing rounds. So not too much. It's basically going to be some kind of tactical, long-range kind of weapon. Something I'm not going to be using. I prefer to use things like APHE rounds. And also, this would be complicated things like shooting at submarines. Shell bounces off things. Now, heavy armor again is the triumphant defeater of everyone and everything except shaped charges. So, question is, now the last question is very much the shields. What can it do against shields? How many times is it going to bounce this one time? Is it going to bounce? Interesting. I do think the high velocity rounds have much more higher chance to bounce off shields. Just gatherers turning off because there's no free steps. Yay, I don't bloody care. Let me quickly just cut that out while we go to a little breakdown. No, so in short, Skimmer's heads behaves mostly like does mostly the same damage as the piercing rail, except it can bounce along the water. Interesting thing, can be quite useful in sort of right hands, but I don't think I'm going to be using a Skimmer head. So, next thing on the list is a squash head. Ooh, excuse me. Now, squash is actually one of my favorite kind of tank ammunition types. It's a very interesting concept. It basically is a kind of round that pancakes onto the surface of the armor to increase the area, the contact area that the thing impacts. So we're gonna have to go all the way, all HE and squash head tip, and I'm gonna go to a small little break to do some things to get this thing ready. Hello, welcome back. Now we're going to see the effect of squash heads, my favorite ammunition. I don't use it very much in Flak. I don't know why. I just don't think. I don't know. I don't know. It's just I don't know. We'll have to see how it fares. So against wood and 3 layers of wood, how well does squash head fare? Now, expected is explosive weapon, and wood doesn't fare that well against explosives. It didn't do anything to the backside, but it's mainly stripped off a lot of the armor of wooden beams there. I would have expected more of the shockwave to carry through and hit that, though we have an issue where here this is technically spaced armor, which is the reason why I put 3 layers of wood, is to replicate that spaced armor effect. might have to consider putting up spaced wooden armor on the other armor designs when I make my own ships. Now, as you saw there, that is sort of the power behind the HESH ammunition. Everything behind here got basically annihilated, and not much of the armor pieces here, but most of everything behind it. So definitely armored targets need to be afraid. So let's check against double stick sail. Again, similar to the heat ammunition, although the heat ammunition did more damage to actual beams here. This does more damage going through it. Though in this case, not much of it has gone through, but we see there is some damage that has been done to the back pieces. Double thick steel, still very much a viable option. Now, what do we see here? Now, since barely any damage done to anything behind it, and in this case, most of the damage has been stopped by the explosive reactive armor. Barely any damage to the armor itself. Very good to see. Very much still the king of armor that seems to be most viable and most cost effective will be explosive reactive armor on top of steel. Though that does mean you have to replace ERA armor pieces every now and then because they'll get blown off. But the material cost is only 5, and the repairing cost is much lower than the actual cost to place it first time off, which means it's not going to be that expensive to replace it. Very nice, I would say. Very nice indeed. So, now, big question. How does it fare against heavy armor? It does, some of it is bled through and actually done some damage on that side, but we see a lot of damage has been done on the outside. We lost a beam and a shield generator on that side. But mostly the heavy armor has stopped the round. So let's go to shields. What can we do against shields with this kind of ammunition? Well, it simply bounces off. Bit of a disappointment. Let's kind of do another check just to see if that was just not random number generator derping. There it goes through. Yeah, definitely shield thing is now very difficult to tell. It's going to be a chance thing. Definitely would put up a weakish shield at a very high angle. Wouldn't care too much. But the added roll protection of a shield generator would be helpful. And now, definitely lighter targets are going to suffer against heat ammunition. Now, next thing on the list after Squash Head is Disruptor Conduit. The Disruptor Conduit head upon attack with a shield will unleash all stored EMP into the shield and turn it back down to the projector itself. So this is basically the anti-shield weapon. The weapon you would have like one gun on your ship with this kind of shell to disable shields when you encounter shields. So let's see about that, and this will also be our EMP sort of test. EMP, and I'll see in a moment when I've cleared the barrels and reset everything. Welcome back. So I'll continue with the tests now. EMP, very important thing. They knock out things without doing any damage to the parts. Very useful if you want salvage. Lots and lots of salvage if you like to capture things. EMP is very useful. So EMP round against wood. Bugger all. That's why, because wood does not conduct EMP effect. Only lighter alloys and metals actually do. Now, so question is, now we go on to EMP to alloy. And you see, notice as well, I did actually replace the flaws with alloys in these little sections, so to sort of show exactly what kind of metal it made of the entire ship, an entire unit, I might say. So EMP versus alloy. Nothing done. This is the sort of uncertainty I'm sitting with. Is does that actually do damage? Did I have enough damage? Am I overcoming the effect of false surge protectors? If not, then the EMP weapon is not. EMP is not that very effective through alloy, it seems, which can be a bit disappointing. I would have very much liked to use EMP weapons against weapons. Nothing there. What probably is happening is that our conduit head really only affects shields. But if we look actually here, is that these surge protectors were not damaged at all. See, no color change if I replace them. May very well be that conduit head stops some of the transfer and is only really meant to take out shields. It doesn't really take out anything else, which is an important thing to know, actually. Is it heavy armor? Now I know heavy armor is actually susceptible to EMP, so let's see what happens. Did I go straight through? I'm not sure. Do excuse the loud noise that happens every now and then due to the cannon firing. Bit annoying. Nothing done to it. Rather upsetting. It very much seems that the conduit head renders EMP only useful against shields. So let's see what happens if we shoot this. Nothing much. The other question is probably that our caliber of EMP weapon is not really useful of any sort. It has definitely damaged the shield generator. Probably a much more larger caliber shield would be what we're looking for. And if you noticed there when I replaced it, that the shield definitely did. Oh, that's derping out there. I want a blue solid shield. Good. Was that the the shell definitely does work against the shield. It definitely does do quite a bit of an impact onto the shield. So probably what I would want to do is have a ship with a gun, very large EMP charge, very large caliber, with that special head to take out shields, specifically only taking out shields. Otherwise, not going to be using this kind of amp type at all. I don't think I'm going to be using EMP at all with custom cannons. But nevertheless, nice to know, nice to experiment, nice to figure things out. So, what's next on the list? We've actually checked out all the shell-nosed types, so we'll have to go through it doing some other types. Now, I'm going to go and I'll check a normal EMP head. Just EMP warheads. And see what happens. If that changes any of the situation. Now, of course, just EMP warheads is going to sort of reduce the aerodynamics because it has no tip. The tip actually adds a lot of aerodynamics. Without a tip, that's very little. That's like speed 274, which is a nice, decent speed. Nice hitting things. Let me just clear this barrel while we're at it. That barrels cleared. This is actually going a lot faster than the Disruptor Conduit head. It might possibly be that the Disruptor Conduit has reduced aerodynamics. But nevertheless, without the head, it's usually shells are usually a lot slower. Now, little break. Welcome back. Going to do our EMP tests now. The thought is that these surge protectors are going to counter a lot of the effect of EMP, but that's sort of the point. It's just 4 little surge protectors isn't very expensive and is very small, can be positioned at key points of the ship just to protect key parts of it. And if a simple 260mm EMP round can't get through that, then I don't have to worry about EMP. Probably I'll have to worry about cram cannon EMP or missile EMP or particle cannon EMP, or maybe just lasers could annihilate me. But hey, that's the point of all of this, isn't it? Right, now, shot. Let's do this. Very little, nothing really. Bit of damage on the wood. Nothing interesting. Nothing to write home about. EMP is certainly not something that's going to bother me if I've got wooden ships. Now, what happens if I actually have something more important, like, say, oh yeah, an alloy aircraft? Now, that's gone straight through and damaged the surge blocks. So the surge blocks is working. The EMP is traveling. Like before, that special head was only really for shields. It doesn't do anything except damage shields. If you put it on, the EMP is useless. But we can see now that the EMP actually works. If it does not have, it's just a straightforward EMP round. We hit here again. Do some damage against that one block. Give us a better question. That the EMP is certainly something that you want a larger caliber, very high fire rate. It's not going to be something viable for massive destruction on this gun. You need a lot of EMP to be able to overcome enemy surge protectors. Or if the enemy in fact has a lot of wood in isolating the important components from the outside surface, it's going to be completely useless to use EMP rounds. Very important to know. So my personal opinion would be I'm just going again sticking with the double thick steel and explosive reactive armor on top of that, with a bit of surge protectors on the inside to protect everything. Now, against heavy armor. It seems to have only done damage to the heavy armor itself, because, for those who don't know, heavy armor can actually be damaged by EMP, so it has most likely absorbed the damage. If you look there, the beam has actually been damaged, which is an important thing to consider here. The EMP hits the heavy armor and doesn't continue on. It hits the heavy armor and does all its damage against the heavy armor. I'd very much like to see what happens if I use an EMP missile against the heavy armor. That would be an interesting test to have. But now, we're just going to go test this against a shield. We can see that's basically done nothing for the situation, mainly because we have wood here, not metal, behind the shield generator. Because shield generator is not going to have any damage because we do not have the special tip for this EMP. Warhead, very important to know. So, well, not really any point in switching up here. Everything we're going to just keep it as is. We just need to clear the barrels, because the next thing we're going to test is probably most important. Pressure view, time fuse, not really very stable, furnace ship, shard secondary. Ooh, what's this? We did not see this before. Allows dual warhead heat shells for penetration of EAR. Secondary warhead is 80% better as the primary one. Oh, so it's basically a two-phase heat warhead. Again, wouldn't be much of a worry, though. In this sort of case, if I were to use that, might be. I have to probably do that in a test in a moment. But what I would like to look at now, properly, most important here, what I would want to do is look at a frag warhead. So we're going to place all these EMP charges with frag warheads. Now, cone angle is, I'm going to do what I usually do with frag warheads on my missiles. I'm going to go the one warhead, 1 degree angle, the second one a 2 degree angle, the next one 4 degree angle, the next one 8 degree angle, the next one a 16 degree angle. Just so there's a bit of a focus point, but a lot of spread out of things. Now what a frag warhead does, it just basically sends out the little shrapnel balls out, which is very useful if you're fighting very light armored targets, or well, targets that have very little armor on the inside, you know, or like or if you want to hit critical parts like wings on an aircraft. Very useful against aircraft indeed, very light targets. I'm gonna have to test that how that affects the barrels. No, that's just warheads. Don't care. I'm ready for that to reload. I'm not going to count out this because the things aren't really that damaged. Oh, well, maybe. Ooh, whoopsie. Because the EMP hitting the thing is basically just doing a little bit damage. Well, the thing that got most damage out of the EMP warhead seems to be just one block of surge protectors. Probably if you have like 20 of these cannons all firing at the same time EMP, yeah, then it's going to be dangerous. But no. Anyways, enough of EMP, let's talk about fragmentation warheads. Alright, fragmentation against 3 layers of wood. It bounced off. Most peculiar. I'm wondering if that is because of the fact that we don't have an armor-piercing head on this. Things that we need to consider, you know. There, it's detonated. Since we don't have any sort of armor-piercing head, it probably would be worthwhile to put an armor-piercing head onto a frag warhead. Now, it's completely wrecked through that wood. It's basically like a short-range shotgun effect that we have there with a frag warhead. And it's just devastating against such light armor. Certainly something quite to fear, especially if against sort of aircraft. Now, question comes: lightweight alloy. Does that? How susceptible is that to fragments? Again, shotgun effect. Boom. Nothing's really gonna survive against that. We have to say. Good to know this actually, because I could opt to use frag warheads instead of SABOT warheads against aircraft, and I have to consider my aircraft very vulnerable if the enemy is using frag warheads themselves. Now, heavy armor. How well does frag fare against heavy armor? Now we do have a lot of frag charges. Yeah, that's quite devastating. Though it seems not that didn't hit many of those things, may have bounced around. Definitely did punch right through that armor, which is worrying. We might be seeing the use of frag warheads a lot more. Oh my, that's strange. It seems the high explosive reactive armor has stopped the round. Let's see that again. Nope, it did very little. Though it did stop some of the damage. It didn't do that much damage to destroy that many beams. Seems the explosive armor does negate some of it. Definitely something to consider. So again, the trump card, 2 layers of steel with some explosive reactive armor. And aircraft will just have to be screwed. Heavy armor. Ooh, now. Ooh, that's actually gotten a bit dark. Yes, the frag warhead seems to do quite a bit of damage, indeed. And has actually brought down the health of this piece of armor here. Very, 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 very nice to know. We've got a contender for some heavy damage against heavy armor. And knowledge that if I want to go heavy armor, I'm gonna be quite safe against advanced cannons. Unless they're like 5cm guns, auto loader 5cm. Shield, not much of a chance. That's just like 1 layer of wood, and that's completely annihilated. Depressing, actually, very depressing, I'd say. But nevertheless, that's one more thing concluded. Now you have to excuse me while I do some checks here. The next thing I want to check out is Flak warhead. I'm not going. I'll do HE warhead as well, just for the hell of it. Now, any of these other things that I want to do, not really. So let's go full on Flak warhead. One big Flak warhead. Let's see about that. Now, Flak warheads are notorious because they do less damage, but over a very large area. So we're probably going to see, you're going to probably see me in the next test doing a lot of replacing of some of these blocks because a lot of them are going to be hit. Now, see you in a moment, and welcome back. We're going to be doing ourselves our Flak warhead test to see how much damage is. Now, should be noted that our round here actually says expected Flak radius is 34 meters. If we look how far this AI is, it's only 42 meters away, these AIs. So we're going to very much likely see some problems I'm going to have to do. This is going to give us a lot of problems. I'm probably even going to be damaging myself at this rate. Oh well. You have to do this for science, don't you? Oh, yeah. That is quite devastating indeed. Now, hasn't done much to the second layer of wood. Did a lot to the main structure here. That's quite something that you might see. The reason why you might use Flak warheads is to do a large amount of damage to a large area, especially to things that have very weak parts, like wing parts or just wooden ships. That's the big thing about these guns. About these kind of guns, the Flak warhead guns. Dedicated light target annihilation. So let's see what happens to light metal alloy. Oh yep, indeed. The one it directly hit did definitely die. The other ones are just critically damaged, to be honest. But mostly interior things fine. Definitely 2 hits of Flak would actually take this thing out. Definitely if you have a slot of Flak being fired into the air, or maybe larger caliber Flak, would be ending the line for whatever aircraft you're shooting at, like armor target. Now, metal, I suspect this is not going to do a lot of damage, is it? Oh, there goes the explosive reactive armor. The explosion radius is very big, and it will take out other things around it. Now, the double metal armor really didn't stop it. I forgot to actually mention this, is that you should know that if you need to stack armor, the armor does get bonuses from the armor layers behind it, so which is cause that it indeed does not get a lot of armor, because armor rating does prevent explosive damage. So now, question: explosive reactive armor. What does that do against HE round? Not much. Doesn't stop it at all. And the steel beams are a-okay. Again, like I said, armor rating does help stop that. But we see that these are slightly darker than these ones over here. But not by much, because the explosive reactive armor took a lot of the blast wave. So against heavier ships, capital ships, airships, we're gonna have a bad time. Okay, heavy armor, probably gonna do nothing. I bet it. See here again. Nothing done to the heavy armor. Absolutely nothing. A hopeless endeavor to try and fire things. So conveniently, our barrel hasn't been damaged, though Flak does have a very large range, but it doesn't do much damage. It's the fall off of the weapon. Now, yes, indeed. Yes, we blast that away. That goes straight to the shield, because it's not an angle shield. See, this experiment is very much going for me like, I don't think I want to use shields, because mainly this shield is just not really doing anything for me. Oh, it's on Disrupt. Why is it on Disrupt? It should be on Reflect. Alright, let's test that again. Oh, there it goes. Bounce that right off. Now, excuse the noise, we are inside the bloody barrel. If we were here, again, blows it right off. The argument would very much be that if I want to use a shield generator, I'd use it on aircrafts, things that cannot afford heavier armor, things that will need to be light and fast, but have a lot of power available to them. We'll be able to use the shields to protect against it. It's a small layer of extra protection, even though it's just a chance to reflect things. It's still going to give us a chance to survive some of those. Survive some of those things, which is brilliant. What we want from a shield. Light defense. It's light defense. Ha 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 ha. Do you see my pun? Anyways. See, now what we're going to do now is definitely the next step we need to take is HE. Not the only thing that's left on this list. HE warheads. Because we last thing what we did last was we used HESH and heat when we applied HE, but we never see the normal HE effect when it hits something. We only saw the special HE shaped weapons effects of them, which is not really what we want. Sometimes no. Sometimes we just want an explosive gun, and in some cases we're going to be having a high explosive armor piercing round, which will be like an armor piercing head with an explosive behind, designed to pierce into armor and explode after it's pierced into armor, which is a very big, dangerous weapon, which a lot of people quite like. Now, high explosive. Now, you may remember, this is high explosive. Our blast radius is only 15 meters. Very much smaller than Flak, but it's still quite a big explosion radius. So let's see what happens. Ah, yeah, that's a lot more devastating than the Flak warhead. They damaged a lot more things than previously, though nothing too much to worry about. Definitely if you were an aircraft, that would be quite devastating. The alloy beams, completely gone. What can I say? Explosive. It does more damage in a smaller area. certainly if you're not too worried about hitting and spreading out damage, if you just want damage focused, and then 50-meter radius, that's pretty much the size of a small aircraft. You could get at a high velocity speed and hit the target, it's going to die. Problematic, really. Alloy is not that viable of a choice, though the lightweight is the thing that makes alloy so useful. Because it's only 16 tons, has a decent health compared to wood, which is it's got a little bit less health but a little bit less armor. Weight 40, material cost is very low. Lightweight alloy is half the weight, which is quite nice. But metal, oh yes, metal, much heavier, much more health, a lot more armor. So metal aircraft, I have to consider trying to make them. I know one of my aircraft actually does have metal armor, specifically for the reason that metal armor is better than alloy. Though if you're cheap and want something really fast, then alloy is still sort of viable, but you're going to get blown out of the sky very easily. Now metal, we'll take double thick metal. Remember, we get a bonus on armor. And again, barely any damage. Oh, it has damaged quite a bit. That must be admitted. Can be quite the serious issue. Let me just rebuild this a bit. Because the blast radius is certainly ripped off a lot of the ERA armor. Certainly if I was to use a combination of guns, I would have one gun that fires high explosive, and then another gun that fires shaped charges. Because the high explosive rounds would rip off all the ERA armor, and the high explosive anti-tank, the shaped charges. I keep saying heat, high explosive anti-tank, when it's shaped charges. It's correct, but it's not 100% correct. So high explosive anti-tank charges, shaped charges. Shaped charges would be more effective now that if I use a combination of HE warheads to remove the shaped charges, and also special rounds to remove any sort of shielding. So, high explosive against reactive armor. Now, we see a lot of damage gone through the metal beams, but again, the high explosive reactive armor does block quite a bit of the explosive, because there's no explosions don't carry very well through multiple blocks. Yes, if it's very light armor, very little, then it does slam right through to the other side. But in most cases, it's not really going to punch very much through. And in this case, we can see those metal beams here are a-okay. Now, do note if we go action check here, expected explosive damage is 2,300, which is about the health of a metal beam. Technically, it should be destroying it, but like I said, the layers protects it. Layers, that's the thing that protects protects ships. Layers and layers and layers. Now, heavy armor. Heavy armor. It's not gonna even be phased by this explosion. Not even an inch. If I quickly go replace one of these beams, is there any sort of color change to that? No. 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 Doesn't do anything against it. The big point actually is because it doesn't do anything against it. Heavy armor is really, well, it says on the tin, heavy armor. Oh, that seems to have bounced right off. Now, see, that is quite easily bouncing off because it's literally just HE warheads. It doesn't have any of armor-piercing head, so it has a lot less chance to penetrate, because those armor-piercing heads actually do add to the penetration chance, it seems. And our shell is just happily bouncing off without a care. So definitely, if I'm driving an aircraft, having a shield will increase my chances of survival. See, now it penetrated. The other times it did not, but now it did. That chance, rolling a dice. Well, rolling a dice, you could be lucky. Well, never gamble. Never gamble. That's just asking for trouble. Now, that's explosive rounds. So, question is, what else do I want to try here? Now, I'm not really going to try the shape charge secondary. What I do want to try is, what we're going to do is we're going to go here to an AP capped head. We're going to keep two HE heads, and we're going to have two solid warhead bodies. Which is basically an armor-piercing high-explosive round. And we're going to set things up. Right, welcome back. Here is now things are going to get interesting. Now we're moving it down to the composite states. Now I'm not going to do too many composite work things. Basically, to be honest, I'm really only going to do HE ward, solid ward, AP capped head machine, because that's one of the most common composite weapons composite rounds you'll find. Now there is sort of the composite warhead tip, and then two stables, and then two some other things. SABOT warhead. I wouldn't go really as composite warhead with SABOT weapons, because the SABOT weapons reduce explosive power. If I look here at the SABOT head, the highest AP and has no chance of fragmentation. Post armor presence of this head sets explosive damage to 25, reduces the explosive damage. So yes, you have a lot of penetration, a lot of explosive power, but you lose out on explosive power. Did I use my words right there? I don't think so. Oh, I'm a bit tired right now. I don't know. This is a long session. A lot of number crunching and stuff. Now, well, not much. We're just sort of loading up and firing it. We're not looking at much of the numbers, but that's the thing. You can look and look and look and look at numbers all of your bloody life long. What you need to eventually, at one point, stick it all together, see what the hell happens. Now, as you might have noticed there, that we hit the thing, it detonated. Quite a bit of damage. Well, not so much as normal HE would, because we got a lot smaller HE charge. Bit of a disappointment, to be honest. More. Fire here at this. Now, the problem is with composites is we're not getting the very much high penetration of the one, while we're getting the high explosives of the one. We're also getting the lacking areas of both of them. Very much. Only it's just really going to get valuable is when you have a much more larger caliber. So I wouldn't have to worry much about only if it's a larger caliber gun. Because if I go actually fire for this, the shell unfortunately is destroyed. It runs out and it then detonates. I somewhat misunderstood something here. Now, the armor is holding up against that. As you can see, the high explosive reactive armor seems to have very much neutralized that round, because when we had fired it against the double thick steel, it actually did take out a block and then detonated. But in this case, it sort of hit the armor. The high explosive reactive armor activated. the shell got destroyed and exploded and did damage to the armor here. Very little damage to the armor here because it didn't impact, which is important to know because this will actually be very helpful, very useful. And if I fire here at the heavy armor, it just doesn't care. It just doesn't care. Just doesn't care. Now, the conclusive evidence here certainly is that heavy armor is ridiculously strong, even though it is ridiculously expensive. That just bounced off because RNG. But nevertheless, let's talk now. With this information we have, the thing that we can see that will be the most viable solution for us would be metal beam, material cost 20, 2 layers of it, stacked, so it is about 40 material to do that. And of course, on top of that, ERA armor. Now, each piece costs 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces would be 20. 20 pieces, 20 reactive cost of that. So about 60, cost of 60 to provide protection. Or alternatively, the other choice is heavy armor beam, which is 160. Which is 100 resources more per piece, though we will have that extra bit of space available. The weight-wise, it's weight 800, while 2 metal beams is 160 each, so it's about 320 plus the ERA armor, which each piece is about 40 times 4 is equal to 160, which gives us to about 480. A lot less than the heavy armor. Armor's 800 weight. Which leaves to the question of why would you want to do this? This gives a lot of armor, it gives a lot of health, gives a lot of protection, but it is quite heavy and quite expensive. Though it does save you on space, but again, on shape charges, we saw the shape charges rip through heavy armor like butter. Thing we certainly would want to do is put up some ERA armor on the front of heavy armor to protect it. Though in that case, why don't you just take ERA armor and metal beams, and that will be your choice weapon. Now, for me personally, what kind of weapon I would suggest for crime cannons? Now, certainly that would depend. Not crime cannons, advanced cannons. What kind of weapon would I suggest? Now, big thing to note is I would suggest 2 kinds of things. I'd first suggest a SABOT head of just SABOT warhead bodies, and that would be your anti-aircraft weapon. Weapon fire, Gatling, whatnot, rapid fire, high velocity, etc, etc. Now, and then when you want to actually do some damage against aircraft, definitely frag warheads. Tons of frag warheads. Do some damage against light target, naval targets and aircraft, and then on top of that, when we want to do some actual damage, well, you can't go wrong with just simple APHE and solid warhead bodies, because that's going to be able to punch through quite a lot. Alternatively, really, what would be useful is the 1 warhead HE up the hell for taking out explosive reactive armor, and the other warhead put on a excuse me, a shaped charge head, so that you can gut heavy armor. Shaped charge head, so you can gut heavy armor, and high explosive, so you can rip off explosive explosive reactive armor. And then, in case you run into things with lots of shields, make sure to get your Disruptor Conduit and get lots of EMP warheads. Why the hell is this still not alphabetically sorted? Oh my bloody god! That would be able to take out shields. Well, you would probably need a very large caliber, a very large EMP charge. Bit of a problem there, if you ask me. There you have it. So, the options available to the situation, I rather think. Definitely lots of options with the advanced cannons. Other weapons we might see a bit less options. Though, armor-wise, definitely in this situation, this is an average size cannon, 260mm. Definitely 2 layers of steel with explosive reactive armor. In my personal opinion, you might want to put a shield on that as well. But if you're on a lighter craft, you're gonna be screwed if you try and use that. Basically, just use 1 layer of steel with reactive armor. Lightweight alloy, better to stay away from that. It's not worth it, it seems. My name is Vincent Karma. I hope you enjoyed watching this. And if you do, leave a little like, leave a little comment, give us a little suggestion, something you want me to go double check. Is there a specific shell that you want me to check? Or what kind of weapon system should I check out next? Go ahead, give me a vote, because I'm quite not unsure. If I get no notification, I'll probably go on and move on to those cram cannons, you know? Dem cram cannons. And do them. Goodbye, have a nice day.